Hey guys, and welcome back to Dark Logic Studios' Attack on Titan theories and discussions. Before we go any further, I want to give you fair warning that these videos are going to contain lots and lots of spoilers. So if you're not caught up with the manga, then what are you doing with your life? Seriously though, if you don't want spoilers, you should probably click on something else. If you're all caught up though, then let's get to it. Wow, so chapter 86. What a chapter. We get hit with so much information this chapter, it's fucking mind-boggling. Now, I originally recorded an hour-long audio for this review, but I'm not gonna make an hour-long review because I'm not sure if anybody really wants to watch an hour-long review. Well, maybe some of you do, but I think it would be better to chop it up into segments. So here's what I'm gonna do. As you can see, I'm doing my review a little different this time. That's mostly because I ended up doing the motion comic, which I really had fun doing. So you guys go check it out. I'm thinking about doing all the chapters like that, just because I enjoy it and it's fun, and you guys seem to like it too. Again, I apologize to anybody who couldn't watch the video because it was blocked in their country. Unfortunately, because I used the copyrighted music from the anime, I did get hit with a copyright claim which blocked it in the United States and a couple other countries. So if you can't watch it, I can't even watch my own video in my own country. But if you can't watch it, I've got it uploaded on Vimeo, and I kind of fucked up the intro credits somehow. But just try to ignore that and enjoy the rest of it. It's slightly lower quality on Vimeo, but you know, if you want to see it, it's there. But anyway, for this video, I'm gonna do just a brief summary of what happened in the chapter. I'm gonna assume that you already read it, so I'm not going to go over everything that happened. I'll include some clips from my initial reaction that I didn't include in the motion comic. And we're just gonna talk about the major things that came of this chapter. And after that, I'm gonna make a few other videos before the next chapter comes out about some of the other nuances of the chapter that we saw. Anyway, let's get started with this video though. So, in chapter 86, we got Grisha's backstory. We got to see a glimpse of the world outside the walls. And the biggest thing that I took away from this chapter is this real insane irony that essentially all this time through this story, it's always been the Titans. The Titans are the enemy. The Titans need to be wiped out. The Titans need to be destroyed. And that's all how it's been up until this point. The Titans are the enemy. But now we find out that the Titans actually are not the enemy. And let me tell you, one of the first things that I thought after reading this chapter was a quote from Erwin in the first season when he leans over to Eren and he asks him, who is the real enemy? And Eren's all confused and he's like, what are you talking about? And but that question turned out to be a really important question and very foreshadowing of what we have now found out, because it's not so clear-cut anymore. So yeah, the Titans are not the enemy. So who is the enemy? Well, apparently the Marley are the enemy. Now what's really interesting about this is that all this time we've kind of been like, well, if we could just get rid of the Titans, then we could go outside the walls and be free and live a life of peace and happiness and blah blah blah. But that turns out to be a complete fucking pipe dream, because outside the walls, humanity is still there, and it doesn't seem so good. In a way, it's almost kind of worse outside the walls, or it would be for them if they left, because everyone inside the walls are Elodians or Lydians or whatever they're called, and outside the walls, the Marley oppress the Elydians. They are second-class citizens on the mainland. They put them in these ghettos because they are discriminated against for the sins of their ancestors or whatever. Now, obviously, that's not right. That is so wrong, especially if this happened so many years ago, and it's kind of insane. And we don't even know if this is actually true. If the original Elydians and Ymir, the original Titan, I guess, Ymir's people went on this genocidal rampage and terrorized the Marley and almost wiped them out. Even if that was true, it still doesn't justify the fact that they are taking these people and basically imprisoning them just for the fact that their ancestors apparently did all this horrible shit. But I think that the history books are propaganda, just like the propaganda inside the walls. It's wrong either way, but if it's not true, it's even more messed up, because that means that the Marley made up all this shit just so they could oppress these people for whatever reason. But, you know, this sort of thing has been happening all throughout our history, as I said before, right from the very beginning with small tribes like 10,000 years ago when we were still living in caves and wearing fucking animal skins to keep warm. Like, this kind of tribalism and ethnic warfare has been extremely prominent throughout our history as human beings, and it's happening even now. So I think that this chapter and just the themes of Attack on Titan in general is just so relevant to our lives and our world, and so reflective of what actually happens in real life, which is part of the reason I think that it resonates with so many people, because it touches on issues that people really care about. And it has this social commentary, but it's not like preachy. It's not shoving somebody's belief down your throat. It's asking questions. It's showing you these situations and these beliefs and these characters and different ideologies and asking you what you think. How do you interpret? How do you see it? How do you feel about it? And this is the kind of writing that I absolutely love, because it makes you think. It really makes you think about this stuff. So, but my point is, what this actually means for our characters is that they're actually probably safer inside the walls than outside. They're actually probably freer inside the walls than they are outside, because at least they can go where they want, they can do what they want as long as they stay inside the walls. Obviously, they've got general issues like the gap between the rich and the poor, and got the people in the underground and stuff like that. So it's got its share of problems, but it's not straight up World War II shit where they're sticking armbands on people to identify them as the other and oppressing them and shoving them all in these ghettos where they can't leave or they're gonna get killed. They fucking killed a little kid, man. They killed Grisha's little sister. The next day her body was discovered in the river. Oh my god. Oh, that's fucked up. Oh shit. Oh my god. And that's so sad. Like, I can't help but feel bad for Grisha because, I mean, obviously Grisha, he's consumed with hate, he's consumed with anger and grief, and he wants revenge. And I guess we see where Eren gets his anger problems from, right? And Grisha was not on a good path. But I can't help but feel bad for him. And you know, two wrongs don't make a right, but I can't help but kind of empathize with him because he was a kid and he made a mistake and he got his little sister killed, and that shouldn't have happened. And it's not his fault. I mean, yes, he was told not to go outside the walls and he did it anyway, but it's not his fault because they shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. It's the Marley's fault for doing what they are doing to these people. And Grisha, you know, he just wanted his sister to see the blimp. He just wanted to make her happy, and he ended up accidentally getting her killed. And that is so sad. Like, that is just so messed up. And so, in a way, you can see where Grisha's coming from with all this rage inside of him. But like I said, he didn't choose a very good path. But on the other hand, what other choice does he really have? Him and his people are being oppressed and abused by this other regime, and they did this horrible thing, and he was blamed for it, and that make anybody angry, right? That'd piss anybody off. But at the same time, you look at Grisha's intentions. Like, I understand his motivations. His intentions, though, were not good. Because what he ultimately decided he wanted to do was destroy the Marley. Just straight up destroy them. He found out that they had other people inside this walled city on this island, and that they had these titans, these weapons that they could use against the Marley. And he said, you know what, if the king is not gonna do it, then I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna bust in there, and I'm gonna take those titans, and I'm gonna fucking do it. Now, that's not good. What the Marley are, so far they've been depicted as straight up evil. Like, I mean, we've got the World War II parallels, we've got the kid killing, we've got all this fucked up shit. So there's not really a lot of redeeming qualities when it comes to the Marley at this moment. However, you can't assume that all the Marley are bad people. They have this regime, and they have all this power, and obviously they have this system. But you can't assume that all the normal everyday citizens of Marley agree with this. I'm sure a lot of them do, but I'm sure a lot of them don't as well, because it's not how humans work. And there has to be a gray area, because this is Attack on Titan, and this is Isayama, and we have made a point over and over and over and over again in the story that there is no such thing as good and evil. Everything is kind of somewhere in the middle, you know. Some people are more good, some people are more bad, but everyone's still in this gray area, including societies, different societies. So I do think that after this we are going to see more of the Marley in a more relatable sense, because Isayama does kind of do this stuff where he'll take a character, like Kenny for example, and just make them completely insufferable and hateable, and then he'll humanize them, and he'll try to get you to empathize with them. And not just Kenny, but Reiner, Bertolt, Annie, like they do all this horrible shit, and you're like, what the fuck? But then he turns around and he goes, well, wait a minute, they have feelings, and they have motivations, and I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is yet. You judge them how you want. And so he's done this over and over again, where he's taken a character and shown them to be evil, really, really evil, and then he gets you to sympathize with them or empathize with them in some way. And I love that, because we have as human beings this kind of dualistic mentality. It's either this way or that way, and it's really hard for us, when we're used to these kind of dual systems, to kind of merge them together or see what exactly is in the middle. And because, you know, you want to have a solid position, you want to have a solid idea of what is going on with this person or these people, and have a solid judgment of that, whether they're your enemy or your ally, you know. And that's very natural. That's part of what, that's kind of instinctual. That's an instinctual part of being human, is the fact that we want to know definitively what side somebody's on. However, when you do what Isayama does, and you say, well, maybe they're this, or maybe they're that, or maybe they're in the middle, then it's hard for our brains to kind of process that, because it's hard for us to say, oh, this person did this thing and killed a bunch of people, but they're still a human being. That's really, really hard. Like, even for me, it's really hard, because it's like if you say, oh yeah, Hitler was a horrible motherfucker and he killed millions and millions of people, but he's still a human being. Nobody wants to hear that, right? Oh yeah, Hitler still had feelings. Nobody wants to fucking hear that. You know, probably didn't have feelings, because he was probably a sociopath, so fuck that guy. But anyway, nobody ever wants to hear that, because he's evil, that's it, he's a monster. That's really hard for us to process, because you don't want to believe that people who do things like that are part of your group, your society, part of your gene pool. So that's really tough for us, and it's a really complicated issue. But I love that this story explores this so deeply and has these characters in these situations that really make you think about that. And I'm really curious of how this is going to play out. But anyway, so we have this situation where we have the Marley on the mainland, we have the Elodians on this island, and they're basically trapped there. They're trapped there not from the Titans, they're trapped there from the Marley, because the Marley are going to persecute them and oppress them if they leave the walls. And of course, the people inside the walls are not aware of this. They're just aware that there are Titans out there and they want to destroy them. And the reason for this, I think that the reason that the first king decided to do this is because if you create this overwhelming, huge force that nobody can fathom fighting against, then they won't fight. At least that was his hope. Now obviously the Survey Corps proved them wrong, because humans will still fight, no matter what is oppressing them, because that's the spirit of humanity. We want to be free, we want to be able to explore and learn and experience things, and you can't do that if you're trapped or if you're oppressed by another force. And if the Elodians, if they did manage to get rid of the Titans and leave the walls, they would have been met with probably an even greater threat, because now they're fighting human beings who inhabit this mainland and who probably have a far greater population and a far greater capacity for destruction, if not for the Titans, especially after you hear them talk about the technology, how technology is speeding up and how we've got these weapons and we need fuel and all this. And what we've also learned is that they're not safe inside the walls, because the walls are about to fall. That is the major thing that we can say for certain. At some point before this manga's over, those walls are gonna be down. And everyone, and so much shit is gonna hit the fan, it's gonna be a horrible mess. Because the Marley, they want the oil reserves. Again, another parallel alluding to real-life circumstances. The Marley want their natural resources so that they can expand their technology and especially their weaponry. Now, we've only seen this part of this continent and this island. We haven't seen the entire world yet. And a good question too is this our world? Because this doesn't look like any place on our map except for Africa, upside down. However, it's actually flipped the wrong way, so I'm not sure if that's actually the case. But this could still be some kind of alternate universe, although obviously extremely different, because if this is Africa, and this is really weird, but if this is Africa, that means that the walls are inside Madagascar. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like the natural surroundings, Attack on Titan, like with the big wide open fields and the pine trees. Madagascar is tropical. It's not gonna look like that, and it's too small. It's too small for the walls to fit on if you look at the actual radius. And there's actually a map that you can go to. I'll put a link in the description. But you can go to this website and it's got the world map and it's got the 3 walls, and you can actually drag around the walls and see where they might fit on the map. And if you drag it over to Madagascar, it doesn't quite fit. Like, actually, it's only about a third of it is actually on Madagascar. So it's really strange because it looks so much like Africa. It really does. But if this is accurate, the measurements of the walls that we have, then it would not fit on Madagascar. It would be impossible. So I do think this must be a completely fictional world. However, we can't be sure, because it does look so much like Africa. So I don't know, maybe Isayama's just fucking with us, who knows. But there's too many things that just don't really add up. So the major thing though about this chapter is the fact that we are about to see major war. The Marley want to attack the Elodians because they want their oil, they want their natural resources, and they want to take them down for good because they just hate them for whatever reason. But they don't want to set off the king and cause him to use these all these titans within the walls. So basically, the people inside the walls aren't going to have a choice anymore. Soon the Marley the Marley have already attacked them and have been trying to gain the coordinate so that they can take over the island and take their resources, but they haven't succeeded yet, and that's why they are trying to get Eren so that they can do that. They want to get the coordinate so that they can control the Titans. The question is, do they realize that only certain people can actually use the coordinate, and that person has to be an Elodian and it has to be a member of a certain bloodline, the Race family or the Fritz family. Now let's talk about them for a second. Who are the Reese family? Who are the Fritz family? Are they the same? Are they different? Are they separate branches of a certain family, a certain family bloodline? I think it's safe to say that they are related in some way. Obviously the last names are different, but I do think that they do share the same bloodline. I do think that Armin could still be one of them. How exactly that would work itself into the story, I don't know, but I'm still gonna hold out hope for it because I just want it to be true. But anyway, I do think that Armin is gonna have a big role in what happens between the Elodians and the Marley. Like I and others have said before, I think he's gonna be some kind of negotiator. And that brings us to the last thing that I want to talk about before I wrap this up, is what's going to happen between Eren and Armin. Now we've been talking about this kind of split between them, between their mode of thinking and their direction, and I'm certain that it's going to have a lot to do with what we find out in this chapter. I think Eren is going to be a lot like his father. I think he's going to be really angry at what he finds out, and I think that he is going to agree with his father in a sense. I think he is going to want to use the Titans to wipe out the Marley, or at least fight them, so that they can be free and not have to hide inside these walls. Because that's always been Eren's goal from the very beginning. However, his anger was misdirected, because he was not aware of what was actually going on. Now that he knows this, that anger is going to go somewhere else. Now that he's taken down the Colossal Titan, who wasn't even really the enemy to begin with, Bertolt is one of them. Bertolt, and that makes me sad. Bertolt was actually, because now we know that the warriors were not the enemy. They were them. They were Elodians who were chosen as children and forced to become these monsters and fight. And in a sense, Bertolt, Reiner, and Annie, they're all victims too. Even though they did this horrible shit, they were forced to do it. They had to do it. So, when Eren took out Bertolt, and they killed him, that, at that moment, seemed like we finally got it. We got that enemy. We got the main fucker who started this shit in the first place. And it's all over, you know, we can go home and be happy. No, not the case. What happened is they killed someone who was essentially a victim of all this, who was forced to do these horrible things. Bertolt was not the enemy. Reiner is not the enemy. Annie's not the enemy. It's the Marley who are the enemy of the Elodians, not the Titans. So, Eren's gonna be really pissed off. I think there's going to be a lot of mixed emotions with these characters. We're going to see how they process this, what they're going to discuss, how they're going to feel about it, what their opinions are going to be, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that, how these characters react to all this. But I think that Eren, I think this is just going to feed the fire of Eren's rage, and it's going to take it to a whole nother level. And Eren has proven to have this kind of black and white thinking. He's not as insightful as Armin is. He's just like, I'm angry and I want revenge and fuck everything. But Armin, on the other hand, understands all the nuances and the complexities of this kind of situation, or I believe he would. And he would realize, hey, this is not a good idea. And Eren has the coordinate. If Eren masters the coordinate, like Reiner said, we're fucked. If Eren masters the coordinate, which it's suggested that he could, then he could use the Titans any way he wanted to. he could bring them all to life and have them destroy the Marley, probably destroy themselves at the same time. So probably not a good idea. But here's the thing, even if you see the Marley as evil, like I said before, everything exists in a gray area. There's no black and white. If you wake up all these Titans and you send them out to fight the Marley, to wipe them out, you would be committing mass murder on what is probably millions of people, and most of them probably innocent. So that's not right. Like I said, Grisha's position was not right, and if Eren adopts that position, he would be wrong as well, because that would be extremely horrific, and that would be just killing even more people. That would kill even more people than there are inside the walls, probably a lot more people. And Armin is not gonna want to do that. Armin's probably gonna be like, hey, yeah, they did this, but this is not right either. Yeah, they did this to us, but this is not the right path. This is not a good idea. I mean, evil acts can't be rectified with evil acts. That just spreads more anger and hate and fear and pain, and it becomes this vicious cycle. I think Armin is going to want to try to stop that cycle. He's going to want to try to find a way to negotiate and make peace. How he's going to do that, I don't know. That's a big task, because we have this entire culture on the mainland, at least from what we have seen, that believe that the Elodians are bad. And this is just this is just a tiny glimpse of the outside world. We don't know what the rest is like. We may never know what the rest is like. But this is what we know so far. So, that's really huge. That's a big thing for me to wrap my mind around. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it as I'm recording this, is the fact that the Marley and the Elodians are going to go to war, the walls are going to fall, these Titans are going to be released, and all fucking hell's going to break loose. And do you remember in, at the end of the Female Titan arc, when Armin, in the manga, he's sitting on Eren's bed, and he says something about, he's talking about, they just found out that there are Titans inside the walls, and he says something like, I have a feeling all those Titans are gonna go for a walk soon. And Jean just kind of laughs and he rubbles his hair and he's like, oh, Armin, you kidder, you jokester, don't fucking say that shit, because when you say things, it happens. So, and anyway, that's what we have to look forward to. And when Isayama was saying that he was going back to his original ending where he's pretty much going to kill everybody, I can definitely see that happening now, because this does not look good. This does not look good at all. I don't know how we are going to end. We are not going to have a happy ending, I can tell you that much. It's definitely not going to have a happy ending. Like, what's nice is that they're on an island, so there is a chance that Armin might be able to see the ocean before he dies. Oh man. Can you imagine if they went outside the walls and they were like fighting outside the walls, and they're riding their horses out beyond where they ever have before, and they get to the coast, they get to the ocean, and Armin's like in a daze. He's like, oh my god, it's the ocean, oh my god, it's so beautiful. But they're fighting, and then everybody dies, and Armin dies looking at the ocean. I'm gonna cry now. I'm literally going to make myself cry thinking about this. Okay, let's move on. Now again, there's a lot more that I want to talk about, but I'm gonna have to save it for another video so this isn't too insanely long. But I thought this chapter was really good. I got really sucked into it. The weird thing is I didn't really feel like I was reading Attack on Titan. It felt almost like a whole different story, but it was good. It was really good. And of course, we have so much information to process, and a lot of revelations, and even more questions. Like every time we get an answer, we get even more questions. So, it's crazy. It's just, my mind, my brain, just blown everywhere. But anyway, keep your eyes out for my next videos going more in depth. different elements of this chapter. Make sure you like and share, subscribe if you haven't already, join our little Attack on Titan crack think tank team, and let me know what your thoughts are about this chapter. Thanks so much for watching my review, and I'll see you next time. Peace.